I wanted to run this session this morning just to give everyone an opportunity to ask questions and also to come and write. If you don't have questions, I can easily talk until 10 o'clock, but I would invite you, first of all, if anyone has a question about StoryADay, about writing, about this whole thing, first of all, before I do that, I'm going to just share, I like to share our code of conduct slide. Hopefully you are seeing that. And it's just basically, in this community, we're a community. We just behave properly. We don't, but it's good to help set the ground rules so everyone knows what proper is, right? So we don't discuss other people's ideas. If somebody is talking about an idea for a story in here, you don't steal it. You don't discuss it with anyone else. If somebody shares something personal in here, you don't gossip about it anywhere. We are best at being... I'm just going to mute everyone just for a sec while I go through this, but you will be able to unmute yourselves if you have a question. Yeah, so be constructive and generous if anyone asks for feedback. And we're colleagues, not competitors. And we really are best. We learn best and we are creative at our best when we're comfortable and when we're, because writing is kind of vulnerable. We're digging into stuff. So we just try and create a really friendly and gentle and welcoming community here because it's best for everybody if we're all comfortable and we all trust each other. So don't be a jerk is the basic rule. There's a terms of service link there where if you ever encounter any problems with anybody in my world, contact me anonymously or any other way you want to. There's a link in that on that page with the full terms of service of being here. But anyway, that's just because I think setting the rules makes everyone more comfortable, and maybe that's because I'm British. So I'm going to stop the share now and come back. Cool. So questions. If you have questions, pop them in the chat or just unmute yourself. If you unmute yourself, you will be on the video recording. If you're okay with that, I'm okay with that. If you don't want to be on the video recording, you can turn your camera off or you can pop your question in the chat. So I will start with the first question in the chat, but anybody else who wants to ask a question after that can just raise their hand. And if anybody has anything to contribute, you just, like chip in, and you might want to like visually cue me because otherwise I'll just keep talking. So Rath in here says 31 days are a lot of days to be writing and contributing. Yes. How long should the stories be? This is a good and common question. Flash fiction is really workable. Writing a very, very short story most days is probably what you're going to end up doing. I know some people who have written like 4,000 word stories on a StoryADay day. Yeah, quite. I just saw Nicole's head pop up there. Really, yeah. But these are people who are like extreme writers who join every challenge and write fan fiction exchanges and, just are always writing. So don't make that your goal. I sometimes write stories that would fit in a tweet. And some days I write 100-word stories, which are actually not as fast as you might think they are, but at least the scope of them is manageable. Yeah, flash fiction, 500 to 1,000-word stories is usually what people are doing. And often what they are doing is writing those stories and maybe they expand them later, or maybe you write a longer story and you edit it down later. So yes, it is a lot. I also always say, if you are writing every day, that's great. If you know, like I've learned over the years that writing every day for 31 days isn't my favorite way to do things. So I tend to set my own rule and I don't write on Sundays, or I'll pick a day of the week that I don't write. Usually it's Sundays because I have family and we need at least one day where I'm just not that kind of pressure. And of course, I'm running a thing. So, but you can make whatever rules you like. If you want to write once a week, that's fine. If you want to write 3 times a week, that's fine. But I encourage you to make a rule that pushes you a little bit further than where you were before May, and then try and stick to it and report in the comments. So welcome to the new people who have arrived. I was just saying I'm going to be answering questions and we'll get some writing done. Hey, Anita, hey, Annette. Other questions? Wow.
I was just gonna, I saw it that the first person who asked the question said, but it's all right to even be writing a story a week. Yeah, that's part of making your own rules for it. You know, I mean, sometimes maybe you've committed to the challenge and then stuff comes up and you realize you aren't going to be able to participate as fully, but you know, there is no, other than the community supporting each other. I mean, there's no like, oh, you must do this or you failed the challenge. There is no failing. There is only participating, and whatever, in whatever way you consider you want to participate. It's kind of cool that way.
Yeah. Thank you, Gabrielle. And you'll see probably people chiming in who are our veterans and members of the Superstars group and who've been here for years. So they'll be giving you their perspectives as well. Thank you guys for being here.
What is the Spark booklet for?
It is for, as you walk, so I don't know if everyone's seen this, but there's a Story Spark booklet on the download page when you signed up. I can send a link to that again later. It's a little foldable booklet that you can carry around with you just to catch ideas as you're walking through the world. And the exercise is to just be observing the world and trying to walk through the world like a writer, you know, and capturing ideas. And I think I talked about this on the day 0 of the fun size challenge. I'm not sure if that's where you saw it or if it was on the other one, but I put a post on the fun size challenge, which you can link to. I'll give you a link to that. So yeah, basically just capturing things like, you know, what exact color are those springtime tree leaves outside my window? And what was that snippet of conversation I overheard from somebody? What is it? If I had to write down the noise of this floorboard that's squeaking under my feet, what would I write? You know, stray ideas, memories, that kind of stuff. So the little foldable booklet is just something that if you don't have a system for catching ideas already, you can carry it around with you. And I encourage people to try and catch 3 sparks a day. Not that they're not story ideas. They're things that you can use to spark a story or things that you can drop in to season a story and give it a little more. So in the chat here, Fallon said, a lot of my stories usually end up being part of a longer story as well. They use the prompts to explore characters for novels and world building. Yes, that is an absolutely excellent use of these prompts. I'm going to just, Michelle, did you have something you were going to say? Because I saw you unmute there, but if not, that's fine.
No, I was just going to ask a question myself. So I'm being either really foolish or overly ambitious, but I want to dabble in both. I mean, I've done the 31 day. My big goal this time is to use, like Fallon was saying, the daily prompts as a way to think about or add to what I'm currently working on. I'm working on a series of linked stories, so I really want to use them for that. But I'm also very curious about the fun size challenge, so I signed up for both.
I've created some cool, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, my focus is going to be more on the traditional one, but if any of us are perhaps sticking our toes in both ends of the pool, so to speak, do you have any suggestions, or can you give us a sense of how maybe those two things might support each other if they do? If not, that's also fine.
No, I think that's fine. And actually, I'm not sure I could have given you an overview a couple of weeks ago, but now I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I think it's good if you want to be on both lists. It's going to be a lot of email, but that's that's life. So mostly the fun size challenge, especially for this first week, is going to be about mindset. It's going to be about catching ideas. It's going to be about, there's going to be days where you're not doing any specific writing. It's a writing thing you'll do. Like if you signed up for the writing, the fun size one, you'll have seen already. I've asked you, like, one of the tasks was to set up a workspace for yourself. That was your pre-May task. And then there'll be things like, actually there'll be some days where I just tell you to read a story. and some days where I ask you to just download a thing and read through it. And then towards the end of the first week, we'll start brainstorming the story that you're going to write. And so those exercises actually probably will go along with, if you're writing to a classic challenge prompt, you'll be able to, like, one day if I ask you to brainstorm the opening for your story in the fun size challenge, that will be an exercise that will be useful to you if you happen to like the prompt that day for the full challenge. So I think the commitment level of the fun size challenge is very low. It's open the email, read it, do a little thing. So if you want to use it to write a single story during the month, you can do that. I think if you're doing the classic challenge as well, you'll be able to use those exercises just to help you with the story you're working on that day. And yeah, I think it'll be fine.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That's something I wanted to sort of, set people's expectations for the fun size challenge. I'm not gonna like hit the ground running tomorrow like we do in the classic challenge. It's not going to be like, it's going to be, I'm going to ask you to be a little patient with yourself, because that is is a skill you're going to need if you want to write over the long term. It is not all about putting words on the page, and that's what the fun size challenge is going to try and get you comfortable with. So you might open up your thing and be like, but I was going to write a story, and tomorrow you're not going to be asked to write a story. So just like settle in. You're in this for the long haul. You're in this for the whole. I can't use that term anymore because it sounds pandemic-y. So you're in this, as you're here to build a practice. You're here to build. So that's what the fun size challenge is going to feel like. It's going to feel very different, and you might be a little antsy. And I'm trying to get you comfortable with just being patient with yourself. So another question: when do we get the prompts, and where are they published? Will everybody be able to read and comment on the stories? Yes. You will get the prompts you will get a link in your email to a post on the blog, and this is for both challenges. And you'll get like the beginning of the each day's thing in your email, and you'll click through to the blog and you'll read a single post there, and everybody can comment on it. So you'll see what everyone is how everyone's getting on throughout the day. It'll people will check in at whatever times that they check in. It goes out at midnight my time at a minute after midnight tonight my time, which is Eastern US. So for people in, east of here, you're going to get it a little later. I'm 5 hours behind the UK, so you'll get it probably before you wake up. And people in India and Australia and New Zealand, you're going to have to be, to wait. You're going to have to work out what you consider to be a day, because some people, you don't have to finish your story by midnight if you're trying to be really strict and do that. I'm going to write a story a day. It's sort of sleep to sleep, I consider a story, or sort of from when you get the prompt to when the next one arrives, or whatever works for you. So you'll see people turning up in the comments, and they will be, people who have commented before I've woken up, and there will be people who comment after I've gone to bed. And it's really lovely, because wherever you are in the world, there's usually somebody around who can, who's writing with you in spirit, or who's commenting when you are. So welcome everybody. Yes, I'm just I wish I could welcome you all individually as you come in, but so in terms of reading and commenting on the stories, I actually don't encourage you to post stories in the comments at my site for a couple of reasons. One, I am not to be trusted with things technological. I do back up my site, but I can't promise you'll get it back if anything goes wrong. So there's that. The main reason, though, is that I really want this explosion of creativity has to, like I was saying at the beginning, you have to feel safe to be able to be creative. And if you're thinking you're going to show your story to somebody straight away, it's a real recipe for writer's block. You'd be like, oh, it's not good enough. And I can see heads nodding. So yeah. So there's that. I want you to keep it secret, keep it safe. This is your personal sandbox. Play with your stories. If you write a terrible story, that's fine. But just come back to the comments and go, wow, that didn't turn out the way I wanted today. That's a much more fun way to go through this than to be like, oh, I have nothing to show them. So, and frankly, nobody has time to read your stories this month if they are writing stories as well. So I don't want to set that expectation. Nobody's going to be reading your stories this month who's also writing in the challenge. last reason I don't encourage you to post your stories publicly, and this extends to your own websites and your own social media, is if you're thinking about trying to get them published later, if you want to reserve that right to yourself, you know, that this draft might turn into something that I want to send to publications. If it's been published on your blog or on your Facebook or on anywhere, it's considered published. And most places don't want to publish things that have already been published. So if you post it somewhere in a community behind a password and, you know, it's a secure place where only a few people can see it, that's a different kettle of fish. But if you are posting it on a public blog, then you're just sort of cutting yourself off from being able to use that story in as many ways as you might want to later. If you don't care about that, and if part of your point of being here is that you want to post stuff on your blog every day in May, then go for it. But I wouldn't encourage you to post stories in the comments at StoryADay because you don't own this space, and you're going to have to try and remember and come back and delete it if you don't want it to be out there anymore. And it's just not something I recommend. All right, how's everyone doing? You feeling enthusiastic? Yeah, excellent. I was going through, a lot of people sent, and also, yeah, just throw in questions if you have. Hey, excited to be here. Great to have you, Sharon. It's my pleasure to plan this. It has evolved since my first inspiration to try and do this myself 12 years ago, and it's fun for me now. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. Yeah, I was going through the responses that people sent into the survey. I thought you might be interested to hear what other people are here for. So here are some of the things I kind of chunked everything in response to. I said, you know, what's your major decision for either signing up or not signing up for the challenge? And the winner by far was people saying they wanted to build a writing habit or a writing practice. So awesome. That's part of the reason I put the fun size challenge together, because I know that for some people this challenge month works really well, and for some people it just leaves them exhausted and they don't open their notebook again for a year. So since so many of you are interested in building a habit, then that's something I want you to really think about, much more than if you got a story written today. If you're doing the classic challenge, like, did I turn up for my writing? What did I learn? Oh, why didn't I write today? These are interesting questions for you to be asking. And if you just keep turning up until the end of the month, you will have spent a month being a writer, whether you've been writing every day or not, and you will learn things about yourself, about your practice, about the things that you don't want to do, the things that you do want to do, the things that are just not practical for you, and the things that get you excited. So just keep turning up and staying in touch. A lot of people were also wanting to keep up with their writing, so they've got a bit of a writing practice and they want to keep it going. Or a lot of people were saying they want to write more. And other people, there were some people who wanted to have accountability and work on craft issues for themselves. A lot of people said they wanted to have fun, which made me happy. And a lot of people were talking about the various ways they were going to use the challenge that weren't strictly canon. So that's good too. You know, people who want to either have they're going to write short stories because they want a palate cleanser from their regular writing, if they're writing on a novel. But other people who are like, I'm going to use this to write scenes for my novel, and great. Or, you know, memoir stuff and things like that. So yeah, so it seems like a lot of people are here for the same reason. Can I ask you guys to put in the chat maybe what your main reason for wanting to do this is? Thank you for being here. I hope that the weather doesn't cut off your internet. I know how that goes. So yes, good luck and happy writing. Of course, I should ask if everyone knows how to use the chat. So to keep me writing, yeah, there's a lot of accountability. A lot of people, you know, have started writing, but it's just not consistent. I want to spend less time tinkering with things I've already written and more time writing new things, writing and finishing new things, if I may make a little adjustment to your goal.
One step at a time.
Finish some of them. Because that stops the tinkering, right? It doesn't stop the tinkering, but it at least, I feel like we don't know what a story wants to be until we finished it, you know, and there's such a kick from actually finishing something. It really boosts your confidence and sort of powers you to keep going that little bit longer. So I'm not going to ask you to finish something every day. You can if you want, but I would encourage you to think about it. Nicole loves finishing things. Excellent. That's exactly what you were typing. It's a month of finishes. That's actually, you know, if you've got stuff you haven't finished and you want to commit to finishing something that already exists, that's a great plan. Yeah, Anita is a champion StoryADay Mayer and uses it to keep writing every day. And let's see what else I've got here. My chat is scrolling too fast. To renew my creativity for my work in progress. I love that. I love writing short stories for that reason. If you've got a longer work, it's such a palate cleanser. And there's just so much less commitment. I think of it like origami. You know, like you're supposed to think of origami, like you're not supposed to store those origami pieces forever and you know, keep them in amber. You're supposed to throw them away. Like it's supposed to be ephemeral. And I like short stories. They're not always ephemeral. Sometimes they stick, but I like to try and make it feel like that. Someone, Tal was saying to return to a writing habit and to write without having to generate a starting point. Yes. My internal censor has been working overtime lately as the things, to pop into my head. This is a great month for shutting down that internal censor. And if you keep going, and you just keep, like, every day you're like, well, I'm just going to write something else, you will definitely shut down that voice. You'll be amazed at how much you can write if you just keep going and don't ever try and catch up with the day before's assignment, except in the fun size. You can do it in the fun size. So that's going to be new this year. Vanya says, I really need some structure and accountability to help me finish things. I'm also looking forward to exploring new ideas and to community support. One of the things I hear every year from people is that the prompts force people to write stuff they would never have dreamed they could have written. So when we get to the story writing part of the fun size challenge, I might encourage you all to go over and have a look at the regular prompts and pick something from there to help you if you're getting stuck. And the structure and accountability, definitely. I mean, just turn up in the blog comments every day and leave your comment and make that commitment to yourself so that you are, whether it goes well or not, so that you're opening yourself up to that community support. And you want to find that Annette wants to find new energy after a long and difficult project. I've almost forgotten how enjoyable writing is. Yeah, we need to get the fun back sometimes. And I'm hearing that from a lot of writers right now, because life has been, you know, how it's been for the past couple of years. So yeah, a lot of people, even people who are like writing professors, everyone's all talking now about getting the fun back. So balances is part of my routine, and we know I don't like to veer from routine. It's also fun and has always brought me story ideas I might not have come up with otherwise. That's awesome. Michelle, prioritizing my writing feels like an indulgence, even though it's a necessity. That is one of the biggest obstacles to writing, I think, is that our culture in general doesn't encourage or respect creativity and playfulness. I mean, we do. Everybody flocked to streaming services when we got locked in our houses. So clearly we need it. We need creators. But we don't tend to give the creators that much respect unless they're actually earning a living at it. But it's so important for us, right? And you know, it's a lot of sort of mental health work for us. And I think that if you think of it as an indulgence to look after your emotions, then we need to rethink that, I think. But it's not surprising because that's how our culture is. Hey, everybody who's coming in just now. I am just wrapping up here with the Q&A. Does anybody want to unmute and ask a question or share an experience to encourage people for whom this might be their first challenge, or put people on the spot?
this is not a direct experience of StoryADay, but someone was like asking about sparks earlier. I've, collecting little bits from the world as you go through it. And it made me think of, I had one spark that was, I saw an upright rolling suitcase on the corner of a busy intersection with no one around it. And it generated my first attempt at, I mostly write fantasy, sometimes science fiction. I wrote a kind of suspense story from that suitcase, something that I never would have written without that spark. And I just want to say also that this is my third StoryADay. I think the first time I got through, but I think I wrote about half the time. Last year, I wrote every day and I got 17 completed first drafts from it. Not all of which I wanted to carry forward, but so and this year is the first year for me where it isn't just the challenge that's the challenge. My life's a little challenging right now, but I am so looking forward to the fun of trying to generate a story every day.
Excellent. I hope the structure is going to help some of that life stuff. Afraid you can't finish, Yvonne. Well, it depends whether you mean you can't finish a story or you can't finish the challenge.
I started once before in September and got a week, and I just have trouble finishing things. So I'm afraid I can't keep up. Maybe that's my evil inner editor beating me over the head. It's just a fear that I can't do it. It's that creative anxiety, I guess. And it's like, I can't do this, but I'm going to do it. I plan to show up even though it's challenging with everything else going on, just like everybody else. But I don't know. It's unfounded. It's illogical, but it's not can't. I don't know if I can do this. It'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's an incredibly challenging challenge. It's a lot to ask anybody to write a story every day, to write anything every day, and like sticking to anything every day for a month. That's not necessarily the most comfortable thing for a lot of people. Some people thrive on streaks, and some people chafe against them. So set your own rules, like everyone's saying. You're getting comments in here, set your own rules. So like if that's super uncomfortable and making you feel like a failure or making you feel trapped, then open the door. Like say you're going to look at the prompts every day and you're going to write to 3 of them, or you're going to look at, I'm not sure if you're in the classic or the fun size version, but it sounds like you're trying to write every day. So yeah, I mean, like or a really good rule to set is I'll look at the prompts every day. And if I really don't want to write one of them, if I'm like, I hate this prompt, I'll try that one. And make sure you write at least once a week, and then just keep turning up throughout the whole month. And don't think of it as a failure if you miss a day, because it's not. I mean, a whole week, like Nicole's saying in the chat here, a whole week of stories is a huge win. It's that's 7 stories that didn't exist before. So, and you probably learned something about yourself. You probably learned that you don't love turning up to write a full story every day, and that there might be another pace that works for you. So it's not a failure. Yeah. And Mary's saying in the chat, I try to focus on whatever I do is okay. Yeah. Like doing something is good.
To add to that, something that helped me, because I avoided even starting the challenge for a number of years for that very reason, Yvonne. And what really helped me was to just redefine what I meant by a rough draft. And for me, that, I tend to start strong and then, get lost a little bit from there. So for me, a rough draft is even just writing down, I know this person is going to do X and Y will happen, and more of just like plot points just to get to that point. And I don't worry about how beautiful they are. So, you know, and this year, actually, I bought myself a teeny tiny little notebook like this, and I am dividing my pages up, and I only have in my notebook, it's a small thing. It can fit in my bag. I'm only giving myself like a front and a back and one more side. That's it. Like because I feel you, Yvonne. Yvonne, I'm the same way. So that might help. I hope it does.
Oh yeah, and it's absolutely, if you're trying to finish a story every day, it's absolutely fine to, in the middle somewhere, just make notes like something clever happens here, or they get out of it. And then like try and put an ending on it so that you can remember where you wanted the story to go. A lot of professional writers do that. So don't think that you're cheating, because that's how people get to the end of things. Yes, and I like Michelle's limits are wonderful. Putting limits on yourself is where the creativity happens. So thank you all for chipping in and asking questions and answering questions.